Hello and welcome to this Bonfire Night bonus episode of God in Film, the podcast where a Christian and an atheist dive into the best that cinema has to offer and see if we can find any parallels with the gospel or any other Bible stories. I'm poet and Roman candle maker Giles Goff.
And I am sauce maker and part-time Catherine wheel, Phil Coleman.
And today, for this special episode, we're going to be looking at Fireman Sam, the seminal children's cartoon that started in 1987 and was revived in the early 2000s. Phil, what does Fireman Sam mean to you?
I mean, apart from the absolute emotional roller coaster, there's so many emotions that come to mind when it comes to Fireman Sam. I'm sure you'd agree with that.
100%. Fireman Sam taught me so much. It was an absolutely seminal experience. Fireman Sam taught me never play with matches, don't overload a plug socket, make sure to put the fire guard in front of the fire. All these things, which has really done me a good stead over the years.
They just don't teach this stuff in school. Do you know what I mean? Like this is this is one of those instances where art really is the great teacher. Here,
it's funny you say that. I remember my teacher, Mrs. Houseman, was trying to get us to come up with slogans about Bonfire Night, and I remember putting my hand up. I couldn't have been more than 5, and I remember saying, Fireman Sam says, don't play with matches, and she was like, well done, Giles, and honestly, I can still remember that fact like 35 years later. So Fireman Sam has been responsible for some absolutely key memories in my life.
I remember you saying that teacher even shed a tear at that point, like just...
Yeah.
What a hero. That kid's going to grow up to be a Nobel Prize winner.
Yeah, I mean, the Nobel Prize is in the post, but what are you going to do,
Plus, as well, the fact they make you pay the postage. Cheek.
Yeah.
But there we are.
All right, now it's time for Phil's Facts.
So, Fireman Sam is an animated children's television series about a fireman named Sam and his fellow firefighters and other residents in the fictional Welsh rural village of Pontypandy, which is really fun to say. It was broadcast for the first time in November 1987 on Welsh television channel S4C and is shown in more than 155 countries across the world, which is mental, actually. So, shall we get into some facts?
Hells yes.
The show was broadcast in English and Welsh at the same time, but on 2 different channels. In English, it was on the BBC, and in Welsh, it was on S4C.
Growing up where I was, we had the option to watch Fireman Sam either in English or Sam Tan in Welsh. And obviously, I don't know how good your Welsh is, but Sam Tan literally just translates as Sam Fire or Fire Sam.
I was that was literally one of my facts.
Sorry,
but, no, it's all good. I just like it. I mean, like, Sam Fire sounds more like a superhero's name. It's like, oh my god, it's Sam Fire. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Sam Fire. In the show, Norman has caused more emergencies than any other character in the series, and that tracks.
Freaking Norman, though.
Is Norman okay? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we are going to get into it with Norman. Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, I think Norman is very much... a reflection of society as it was back when Fireman Sam was first aired in 1987, and it's very clear to see with the amount of hijinks he managed to get himself into, all of which very dangerous, of course.
Yeah.
So, several characters in the series have been named after and inspired by famous people and characters. Elvis Cridlington is named after and inspired by the famous singer Elvis Presley. Station Officer Steele was inspired by Dad's Army character Captain Mainwaring.
Captain Mannering.
Mannering. You know what? You know when you see something written down and you have no idea how you pronounce it, so you just give it a good old college try. Because I have no idea how to say that. Dillis Price, or Dulles Price. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce that, actually. Dillis, okay. Was inspired...
I've got an anti-Dillis. A great anti-Dillis, but she's pretty great.
That makes more sense, okay. Was inspired by Coronation Street character Hilda Ogden, while Norman Price's possible inspiration comes from the cartoon character Dennis the Menace, which I think that tracks in some ways. Yeah. The setting of the series is the fictional village of Pontypandy in Wales, which is a portmanteau of the names of 2 Welsh towns, Pontypridd and Tonapandi, which I think I've pronounced correctly.
More or less. You're pretty much there.
I'm happy with more or less. Not being Welsh, I think I'll take that as a win. It's a hard language to master.
It's not llanfair pwch gwyngyr gerich drop tansilio go go goch. So, for me, it seems fairly straightforward, but I appreciate it's tricky for some people.
I wish I could repeat that back to you. You know what? I just call it Clan5 PG because that's what everyone else calls it. So. And lastly, and this might be one of my favourite facts possibly ever, just because it's ridiculous. The Independent Film Association of Schools in Ireland started a petition for the show to be translated into... Now, it says Irish here, but I imagine it's probably like Irish Gaelic, something like that. They started a petition for the show to be translated into, I'm going to say Gaelic, for the 20 viewers in the county of Galway. Because those 20 viewers... They definitely need to, pay the salary of a translator for the whole 20 of them.
I heard that when they moved it, when they tried to sell it over into America, they gave all the characters American accents. I'm like, how though? Like, growing up as a kid, like the number of things that Wales has given to the world, you can count on one hand. It's like, especially in the 80s, it was like Tom Jones, Shirley Bassey, Fireman Sam. And so, like, how do you take the Welshness out of Fireman Sam?
Just think of the name of the setting. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's like we're in Panty Pandy, Milwaukee. It's not like it's there's nowhere like that.
It's like if you gave all the characters in Hamilton Welsh accents. It would just be a bit strange. Hello, George Washington, Inui. Yeah. It wouldn't quite work.
Just imagine Hercules Mulligan. I need no introduction. I'm sorry for the terrible Welsh accent. Anybody in Wales, please don't come.
Not for the first time. America, have a word with yourself, please.
Yeah, just have a long, hard stare in the mirror and stop. Anyway, that is my fact.
Fantastic. Okay, Phil, I'm not going to lie. I think 50 or so episodes in, I have absolutely outdone myself when it came to this guest. I've not told you who it is. I want your reactions to be nice and fresh. This is probably the biggest get that we've ever had for the podcast.
That's a bold claim to make.
100%.
We've had some great guests.
Yeah, we've had some pretty great guests. I tell you what, you start listening to it now and you can judge for yourself. Okay. Here we go. Hello, I'm Sam Jones, and I'm best known as Fireman Sam, or Sam Tan if you prefer. And I'm a senior firefighter for the Pontypandy Fire Service in South Wales. Sam, it's such a pleasure to have you with us today. You've always been something of a hero of mine, and it's an honour to have you on the podcast. Oh, thank you very much. Likewise, me and the boys really enjoy listening to your podcast while cleaning down Duke to the engine. That Phil is a character, isn't he? He certainly is. Okay, let's get straight into it. What is the biggest challenge you face in the run-up to Bonfire Night? Well, I think it's a constant battle, trying to educate people about fire safety on Bonfire Night. There's the obvious things, like always leave dealing with the fireworks to an experienced adult. Mm-hmm. Never putting fireworks in your pocket. Yeah. Never going back to a firework once it's been lit. Yeah. And to never touch the hot end of a sparkler. But for us, what's frustrating is the amount of people setting off fireworks outside of Bonfire Nights. Fireworks can be very scary for animals who should always be kept inside on Bonfire Night. And on the 5th of November, people expect there to be fireworks and can prepare for them. But when they're going off unexpectedly, it can be very scary, especially for the animals who might be out nearby. Yeah, definitely. People need to learn to use fireworks responsibly. That brings me to my next question. Some critics have noticed there's a very high number of accidents in Pontypandy, which is comparatively quite a small town. What would you say to the people who say you don't spend enough time on educating people about fire safety? Well, listen here, right? You've got to remember that Pontypandy Fire Service actually hosts 4 emergency services. We have the Fire and Rescue Team, the Ocean Rescue Team, the Mountain Rescue Team, and the paramedics. Now, it's important to remember that despite all these things we offer, we're still an incredibly small team. There's me, Station Officer Steele, Elvis, Trevor, our auxiliary fireman, and more recently, Penny. Now that's barely enough to cover one shift. Mm-hmm. In England, they're looking at a reduction of firefighters by 20% since 2010. Yeah. And our colleagues in North Wales are potentially facing further cuts that put lives at risk. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Everyone here has high levels of training to deal with various types of emergencies. And we're always in a high state of readiness. I, for one, can put on my coat and hat in less than 7 seconds flat. But there's really only so much you can do. 100%, yeah. Listen, I totally agree. That actually brings me to another point I was going to make, Sam. Do you ever find that this devotion to your job impacts your private life in any way? You've been a bachelor for some time now, so I'm just wondering if it's difficult to form any meaningful relationships with such a demanding job. Well, I'm glad you've asked me that, because the thing I really want people to know is... Oh, there goes a fire bell. Oh, best be off. Lovely talking to you. Okay, all right, okay. Thank you so much for talking to us, Fireman Sam.
Yeah, that... It's really good. Oh, that's really good.
So, Phil, that was Fireman Sam. What did you think?
I am absolutely bowled over that you managed to get hold of Sam Tan himself. You know, like that's. I mean, what a guy as well. Like, he was so humble, and he spent all of his time just trying to make sure that we, the public, taking fire safety seriously, and that really is. Especially, with Bonfire Night coming up, and that is the most important thing.
It was quite a big thing to get in, but of course, as you know, I'm Welsh. Everybody in Wales knows everybody else.
Yeah, you actually have a WhatsApp group, I've heard.
Yeah, Wales.
It's the Wales, the WhatsApp group.
Every time something pops off in England, somebody is blowing up the WhatsApp going, oh, what are they up to this time?
Have you seen that bloody fool?
Now it's time for... Finding their faith in the film. So obviously, there are many lenses through which we can observe Fireman Sam. If you think about it, Wales was the first country ever to get colonised by the English. And I think the fact that Station Officer Steele is very clearly not only English, but represents that kind of ruling class, and the fact that he's in charge over the Welsh characters, I think there is an implicit criticism going on there. There's a conciliatory sort of tone in there, because obviously Steele's a good dude. He does his job. He gets everything looking absolutely shipshape. But it's the fact that Sam is the titular hero in this, the criticism is there.
I know it's Fireman Sam, and it should really be. Station Officer Sam. I think he's earned his stripes.
There was one point where he got offered station officer of the neighbouring town of Newtown, but he had to turn it down because he felt that Pontypandy just needed him too damn much. And I see a lot of the heroism in that. He goes where he's needed. He's not interested in the promotions. He's not interested in the titles. He's just there to do the job.
I guess you could say that Newtown, Fireman Sam is the hero that they deserve, but not the one they need right now. So
yeah. The one character we will be focusing on quite a bit is Norman.
Norman. Okay. Yes.
Now, obviously, some critics over the years have theorised that gingers have no souls, and that's why Norman is quite as terrible as he is.
Yes, I have heard about this, the soullessness of people with, red hair.
Yeah, I've done a lot of thinking and a lot of praying on this issue, and kind of really dug into the exegesis. I've come to the conclusion that I believe gingers do have souls,
right?
Even if they're not apparent, even if it's not obvious.
I mean, I guess a soul can be veiled in some way by the actions of the individual.
Yeah, and Norman is flipping. He's never done with doing these kind of actions.
Yeah.
And the episode I wanted to draw your attention to was Norman's pitfall. Okay. And I'm sure I know you know this one. I shouldn't have to explain it for you, but for the listeners at home, I'll give you just a general sort of synopsis of what happens.
I mean, for me, it's every Christmas day. You know what I mean? It's It's a Wonderful Life. It's
So Fireman Sam's nephew and niece are out having a picnic outside, and flipping Norman comes along, right? And there's one moment where he's just
pull yourself together, Northern.
Yeah,
Northern.
Have a word with yourself. Norman comes along and steals a cream cake. And then it's one of the beautiful moments where the retribution is swift, because at that point, the bees are actually attracted to the cream cake. And he's running away. He's trying to get away from the bees, but he's still carrying the cream cake. And they tell him get rid of the cream cake, and he doesn't, and he falls down a disused mine shaft.
Do you know, I can already see some faith-based parallels
100%.
here.
So clearly what we're dealing with here is an allegory for man's sinful nature and the consequences of sin. I figured you probably already twigged on that one.
Oh, I mean, as soon as you mention something like falling into a pit, then we get descent into hell. You know, I feel as though this writes itself in some ways. You know?
Exactly. So Norman knows that he's doing the wrong thing. He does it anyway. And I feel it's almost like what we're seeing here is the entirety of the human experience from Genesis to now. And I feel like we could just have some sequences may have been shortened, thrown in there, you know, because it just sums up all of us in that moment.
I'm obviously abridged for time, but you know, it's a 10-minute episode of pure quality.
Oh,
sometimes you've got to cut out the fat, trim the fat. That's the term, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trim the fat.
He falls into this situation, and who gets him out without even thinking about it?
You know what? You don't even have to say, but I'll let you say it anyway.
Fireman frickin' Sam. Okay.
Fireman.
Not only that,
G.
you got Sam, you got Elvis, and Station Officer Steele.
Oh, yes.
Effectively, Pontypandy's very own Trinity coming down to save him. You know?
Oh yeah. Oh, hey, you know what? I would never have made that connection. Actually,
Station Officer Steele is obviously clearly representative of a very traditional view of God the Father. You know, heavily patriarchal with the sort of the English accent and the sort of wax moustache and all that sort of thing. There are conflicting views as to which one represents Jesus and which one is representing the Holy Spirit in there. Because my gut reaction is that Fireman Sam is Jesus in this context. But like Elvis is right there. Elvis, the king of rock and roll, the king and king of all kings. So it's like these parallels are just staring you in the face. Do you know what I mean?
It's almost like they're begging to be analysed. Do you know what I mean? And I would say on the topic of Elvis being possibly the spirit there, like, you know, I would say that he was kind of like, you know, the heart and soul of the station, as it were. You know, I think he lends his spirit to the morale of the team. So, but that's just
100%.
My layman's knowledge for better terms. You know,
yeah, love it. And obviously, they come in, they save him, they get him out. And the thing is with Norman, we know he wants to be better. We know he's trying to be better than who he is. But we also know he's gonna screw up, don't we?
He's yearning for redemption, but at the end of the day, he is only human and ginger.
Yeah, he's yearning for redemption, but he knows he's gonna screw up. So, and do you know what? When he does screw up, whenever that happens in the future, Fireman Sam is there on time.
He is.
He'll come in to save him, irrespective of whose fault it was or anything like that. He's constantly gracious in these situations, and I think the parallels are just obvious, you know?
Well, I mean, he is the hero next door at the end of the day, and much in the same way Jesus is, especially if you live next to a church.
Okay, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we could talk for hours about the many obvious parallels in Fireman Sam, but we're going to leave it there.
Blindingly obvious.
You check it out for yourself. We have some reviews. We got a brilliant one from Big Picture Man on Apple Podcasts.
Love that guy.
He said, excellent episode on Oppenheimer. This was a very thought-provoking episode which examines the history and the ethics of Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs. Compelling listening. And do you know what? The Oppenheimer episode was like a ridiculously popular episode. Like the download figures for that were like biggest since our Exorcist episode.
And to be fair, and the Exorcist episode had a literal exorcist. Now, I still can't get over that, actually. That was so bloody cool.
Yeah, we do not play when it comes to our guest bookings.
I mean, Fireman Sam.
Right. Anyway, it's time for us to go. Phil, have you had a good time?
You know what? It's nice to be back, albeit briefly, and I always have a good time doing this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Awesome, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Gordon Film is hosted and created by Giles Goff and
Phil Coleman.
Mixing and editing by Giles. Our logo was designed by
Julie Walsh.
And our theme tune was composed by
Rick Lee.
Waffle editing by
Claire Goff.
Gordon Film is a Dask production. Please rate and review. And while you're at it, give them 5 stars, why don't you? They're a cracking pair of lads and I know they'd appreciate it. Have a great bonfire night and remember, be safe.